it and show it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't know where it's
Whatever.
Is this whole thing?
They're the professionals. Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah.
Check 1, 2. Do you have audio coming through yet? There may be. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Idaho Public Purchasing Association 9th Annual Reverse Vendor Trade Show, Passport to Possibilities Lunchtime Session. I hope everyone's enjoying the show so far in this new virtual setting. If you've attended a show in the past, you know how this part goes. We head into the conference room, we run to the line to fill our plates for lunch, and then you sit with your fellow government procurement professionals and vendors and have good conversations over lunch. Then we follow with some fun from IPPA and round out with an inspirational keynote speaker. Well, you're in for a treat. Just sit back in the comfort of your own home or your office, close your eyes, and imagine that setting again. Unfortunately, we don't have lunch for you, but we promise to deliver some great entertainment and inspiration. So hopefully you had a chance to attend our opening session yesterday. We talked a lot about what's to come over these next couple days. And again, I just really wanted to recognize the board of the IPPA for all their work they do with this event, and especially the committee. They were definitely the ones behind the scenes putting all this on and making it happen virtually. So we didn't want a year to pass and not provide a show for you guys. So we're so happy we were able to make it happen. So thank you to everybody who was a part of that. Thank you again to all of our sponsors. We mentioned all of them in our opening session yesterday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Just a couple of housekeeping items I did want to mention. Again, new this year are the vendor spotlights out on our Reverse Vendor Trade Show website. Make sure if you haven't yet, check those out. They are great. So every vendor in attendance has a little advertisement spot out there. Some people have really put in a lot of time creating a video for you and sharing different promotional materials. So please check out their websites, check out what they've provided, and we hope that's valuable to agencies and vendors alike. Also, we hope everybody received the buyer's directory that came out by email yesterday. Normally, you all receive a hard copy of that. Hopefully, everyone got the email. Sometimes our emails go to your junk box, so make sure if you didn't get it to send us an email. You can send that to rvts@nigp-idaho.org. I think that was all of my housekeeping items. So yeah, I think we're going to move on to our gift basket drawings. So as usual, we do have some great gift baskets we've provided to all of our vendors that attend. So we've got your names in a drawing for everyone that's registered, and we're going to draw some names. We've got some awesome baskets. All right. So we are going to start. So Ada County Procurement provided this great basket. It's kind of a cozy basket because I know we're all kind of in that cozy mindset with COVID, right? We're all stuck at home, unfortunately. So enjoy this fuzzy blanket, some candy, and an Ada County Procurement swag pack. So we're going to go ahead and draw the first name. All right. Thank you, Shannon. So our first winner is Joel Pasco. Very good. Congrats. By the way, all the winners, we will arrange with you after the event how to get those baskets from us. We'll get them to you. All right. Next up, Robin is going to present. This is a basket donated by the Idaho Public Purchasing Association. We've got a couple of IPPA tumblers in there, a bunch of different great Idaho candies and chocolates. So lots of goodies in there. All right, so our winner of this basket is Dan Russell. Congratulations. Next up, we've got a basket donated by one of our board members, Jennifer Pope, and it's going to be a Burt's Bees basket. We're going to have that mailed directly to you, so we've just got a picture to show you here. So Shannon's going to draw a name. All right, our winner is Ron Schumacher. Congratulations. You can enjoy that or give it to a friend. All right, next up, this one's pretty cool. So one of our board members put this one together. It is the ultimate picnic basket. So it comes with a full picnic set, including silverware, all that, plates, everything, and then a blanket and a backpack that holds it all. So this one's pretty neat. And this one goes to Devery Richardson. Congratulations. And I think we've got just one more. So this is a nice kind of cozy, we'll say quarantine goodie bag for you. So it includes a blanket, some different yummy snacks, and things like that. So we'll draw a name for that one. Get a good one. All right. So this winner is Grant Loveridge. All right. Well, thank you. Congratulations to all of our winners. And we can't forget about all of our government agencies. So we are going to do a quick drawing for them. So as usual, we wanted to give back to our members, and we are going to do a drawing for a $400 scholarship to a lucky government procurement professional here that has signed up for the event. This is going to be a scholarship through our IPPA scholarship program. So if you look at our scholarship website link on our website, you can see kind of what that goes towards. It can go towards a class to help you with certification, money towards your forum registration, anything like that. It must be used by December 2021. Oh, ignore that other thing. All right, who's the lucky winner? Oh, Kim Guevara. Congratulations. So we'll get with you, Kim, and make sure that you get that scholarship money. All right. So the next part that we want to present, it's really special to us. It's our IPPA individual awards. So we take this time to recognize different procurement professionals that are members of IPPA for their outstanding accomplishments in our profession and in the chapter. You probably saw earlier in the year, we sent out an announcement about these awards, and we wanted to just especially recognize them during this session. Ideally, it would have been great to have them here live and hand them the plaque. So for now, we're at least going to tell you about them really quick and show you their beautiful plaque that they'll receive. So the first award was our 2020 Professional Buyer of the Year, and that went to Kirk Anderson. This award goes to an IPPA member that is a buyer or purchaser, and they are awarded if they demonstrated outstanding professionalism and if there's somebody that's contributed significantly to the field of procurement during the calendar year. Kirk is a senior buyer in the Business and Support Maintenance Division at the Idaho Transportation Department. He's a devoted government procurement professional, and you'll see him at lots of different IPPA events, and he always has a smile on his face. He's very deserving of the award. So congratulations, Kirk. We do have your beautiful plaque here, and we can't wait to give it to you. Yay. So the next one that was awarded was our 2020 Professional Manager of the Year Award, and that went to Drew Evans. So this award is presented to an IPPA member that is a procurement manager or supervisor, and somebody that really demonstrates outstanding professionalism and contributes significantly to the field of public procurement. And Drew, over 10 years, he spent over 10 years as a public procurement professional. He currently works as the procurement program manager at the Idaho Department of Lands. Additionally, he has the honor of serving on the IPPA board as our professional development chair. Drew believes firmly in the critical and strategic role procurement plays in the success of his agency, doing everything in his power to ensure his team has a seat at the table. If anyone has met Drew, one of my favorite qualities is that he always makes everybody laugh. So, again, along with his amazing professionalism, I think he's very much deserving of this award. So, Drew, here's your plaque, and we can't wait to give that to you. Congratulations. All right. And last but not least is our prestigious Frank Pierce Founders Award. We're very proud to award this to Tina McBride this year. In 2013, the IPPA board voted to establish the Founders Award in memory of Frank Pierce, one of our dear founding members, to recognize members who have rendered distinguished service to the public procurement profession and/or IPPA. This award should be presented to an IPPA member who demonstrated outstanding leadership and accomplishment in the field of professional public procurement. The award may or may not be presented annually, as it's intended only for those professionals that have truly been a contributor, leader, innovator, and ongoing member committed to the profession. Tina is the purchasing agent and manager at Idaho State Police. A little more from Tina. She left procurement in the private sector and entered public procurement in 2005 and started with the city of Boise, and then transferred to Idaho State Police in 2010. In 2005, she joined IPPA and has been a member ever since then. She's held positions on the board in every position except secretary, which I think is pretty amazing. Tina is always willing to help and is such a kind person to be a part of our board and our chapter. So we're so thankful for her in IPPA and in our profession. We're lucky to have her. So congratulations, Tina. Here's your plaque. And again, we'll get that to you here as soon as possible. So congrats to all of our winners. Thank you again. And I think that is all I have. So I'm going to pass this along to Robin to talk quickly about our philanthropy partner, Gem Friends.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's YouTube Live session. I'm excited to be here. So I'm also excited to introduce Liberty Thompson from Gem Friends. I'm going to talk a little bit about her here before we get started and before she presents. So we're excited to present our philanthropy partner this year, Gem Friends, as I mentioned. Our board of directors decided we wanted to support an organization this year where their mission was to help children in the Treasure Valley. We did some research and found Gem Friends. Gem Friends is a local nonprofit in Boise, Idaho that supports youth aging out of foster care. What we found was 1 in 3 youth experienced being homeless within 18 months of aging out of the foster care system, so we thought this sounded like an amazing cause to support. Thanks to all who have donated towards our cause today. If you haven't dropped off your items yet, you can still drop those off at Gem Friends or to my office at the Ada County Courthouse. Just send me an email. You can also mail gift cards to the IPPA mailbox. So without further ado, I am now pleased to introduce our special guest, Liberty Thompson with Gem Friends.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here. It's an honor to be a part of your event virtually this year. I am the founder and executive director of Gem Friends. We are a local nonprofit working with our local young adults and youth who are aging out of foster care or at risk of becoming homeless. And before I share more, I wanted to share with you a video about our founding story and why I am so passionate about working with youth coming from foster care. The story of Gem Friends starts in the heart of a young girl. Around 9 years old, I was having a conversation with my mom about abortion, adoption, orphanages. I was trying to wrap my mind around the fact that there were kids that nobody seemed to want. I remember telling my mom, someday I'm going to have a place for all the kids that no one wants. And she told me, do you want to know about a children's home already going on in the area? Of course. So she signed me up to receive the quarterly newsletter of Hope House, a local children's home. I remember being so excited when they would come in the mail, just waiting to read the stories about these kids that inspired me, that I wanted to someday meet. In the summer of 2004, I read a short story that changed my life forever. It was a story about a girl named Amanda, who was 13 years old. In her short story, she shared about being taken from her birth family, placed in foster care, bouncing around, and eventually being adopted. That adoption failed, and her siblings got placed at Hope House. She also shared about how she was potentially going to be readopted, but that wasn't working out, and she was coming back to Hope House where she would be until she turned 18 years old. I really wanted to meet Amanda and all the kids at Hope House, so I got the opportunity to get involved with Hope House through playing on their basketball team. In December of 2004, I had an opportunity to go out for the first practice. I remember stepping in the gym and seeing all the girls on one side, excited to meet them. Stephanie quickly introduced me to all of those girls, but Amanda wasn't there. I was looking around the gym for her, and I saw her across the gym playing 21 with 2 boys. I ran across to introduce myself and said, "Hey, Amanda, my name's Liberty, and I'm going to play on your guys' basketball team." She dead-eyed me and said, "Get off my court." My heart sunk. But I wasn't discouraged. I remember running across the gym and telling my dad, "We're going to be best friends." It took about 2 months of persistent friendship towards her, but I remember the day she said yes to buying a Subway, and I knew we were going to be friends. It was through that friendship with Amanda, the 4 years of high school, the ups and downs in her own journey, watching firsthand what she experienced, the adversity she faced, and especially the time as it got close to her aging out, and everything that she went through about the anxieties of her own future that started opening my mind to what happens to youth after they live in a children's home or leave foster care. I remember the day that Gem Friends was really born was the day that Amanda came to me and asked me to speak for her at her high school graduation. Remember thinking, wow, if one friend can make this much of a difference, what would happen if our community knew about the youth in foster care and the adversities they faced and wanted to make a difference? I went home that day and I Googled leaving a children's home, leaving foster care, and I started seeing these statistics that 1 in 3 of the youth that leave foster care are going to be homeless in the first 18 months. 1 in 4 will be incarcerated. 1 in 4 females become pregnant in the first 2 years. And only 50% of youth that leave foster care ever get their high school diploma or GED. I thought somebody's got to be doing something to help them, providing housing, doing something. Finding nothing, I decided that was when something needed to be done, and I was going to start Gem Friends. Just 4 short months later, in September of 2008, right before my 19th birthday, I founded Gem Friends.
I just want to share those statistics with you again. For the youth that are leaving foster care, 1 in 3 end up homeless within the first 18 months, and only 46% ever graduate high school or get their GED. So, how does Gem Friends work on solving this or bringing a solution to youth that are leaving foster care, as well as our homeless high school students? We do this through what we call as our transition program. Our transition program has some very key elements. The most key starts with the housing piece. We have found that for our youth and for youth that are transitioning, turning 18 and transitioning, they can't focus on their school, on their college, or what's next when they're homeless. We can't ask them to try to get a driver's license or to accomplish goals when they don't have a safe place to lay their head down at night. So we start with that housing piece, and Gem Friends operates 2 girls' homes housing 7 youth right now, and we are launching our boys' home in Nampa in January 2021. The next piece to our transition program is the transportation. We focus on being able to get them to school, to work, to accomplish those goals and what they have set out to do. We provide transportation by keeping our homes on the bus line and providing them bus passes, bikes, and we also have a car matching fund, which allows them to save money and to get into good working vehicles. The third of the 4 key pieces to our transition program is our life skills classes. They happen every Thursday, and they're life skills classes that are a variety and are taught by community members. Also, our youth have mentors who come into the home to teach in-home life skills classes, as well as teaming up to help support them get out into the community, whether that's through volunteering, opportunities, or activities. Gem Friends is also focused on being a family for our youth, and we do this through birthday parties, celebrations, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and also by providing opportunities to get into the community through playing City League sports teams. That's a few of the ways that Gem Friends supports our youth that are in our transition program. And I wanted to share with you a little bit more about our youth. Who are Gem Youth? Who refers them to us? The number 1 referral that we get is from the Department of Health and Welfare and their independent living coordinators. We also get referrals from our high school counselors when they identify youth who are homeless yet still trying to finish high school. How do they get accepted into the Gem Friends process? Through an application and an interview, Gem Friends is able to identify the youth that qualify and are motivated to receive support and are motivated to their accomplishing goals. And how long can they stay with us? Youth that come into the Gem Friends transition program are able to stay a minimum of 24 months. We believe that it takes this time for them to come in, gain stability, and also to gain the life skills that they need through that transition time. So when they leave Gem Friends, they're able to um, move into their own independent living situation. I really am honored to be here and to share with you about Gem Friends. I would encourage you to learn more through our website, which is gemfriends.org, and that is with a J, so JEM friends.org. And I want to share one final statistic to answer the question, is it successful? Does the Gem Friends transition program help? In 2020, through all that has gone on, through all the adversities that we've faced, Gem Friends youth have been able to gain 85% of our youth have been able to gain and keep employment through the year. This is in contrast to the statistic that was put out by the performance evaluation last year, that only 24% of youth that leave foster care have employment by age 21. So we know that the Gem Friends transition program, the support of the community that our youth have, does work and does help our youth transition to complete independence. I'd be honored to talk to anyone more. Feel free to reach out to us through our website, make a call to our office. Love to share more for anyone that would be interested in getting involved through volunteering, through mentorship, or through giving. And thank you again to IPPA for having us here, allowing us to continue to share the message, continue to advocate for our youth that are aging out of foster care. We're really honored.
Thank you, Liberty. Now, we'd like to show you a video from one of our first class sponsors, NASPO Value Point.
NASPO Value Point is the purchasing cooperative of the National Association of State Procurement Officials. All 50 states, Washington, D.C., and even U.S. territories are members of NASPO Value Point. Our volume and process spurs innovation, competition, and best value. We've been doing this for over 25 years now and know what it takes to leverage leadership, expertise, and purchasing power. Simply put, NASPO Value Point can give your organization the purchasing power of up to 50 states. If you work for a state or local government, school district, or higher education institution, our contracts help your organization obtain the best solution offering best value. NASPO Value Point offers a great selection of supply and service contracts all in one place. You will benefit from lower administrative cost of processing by leveraging expertise of staff across state boundaries. Our goal at NASPO Value Point is to give your organization leveraged buying power to maximize your budget. Get online now at naspovaluepoint.org and make the purchasing part of your day easier, more cost-effective, and worry-free.
As you may have heard, our theme this year is Passport to Possibilities. We thought this was a great representation of what our event provides to all in attendance year after year. Possibilities of networking, education, and inspiration. We hope that you've been able to have that experience so far since yesterday and through tomorrow. And we hope you've received some useful resources to carry us through this situation. So to round out our lunch session today, I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, Monty Stiles. Monty Stiles served his entire professional legal career of 29 years as a state and federal prosecutor. For 24 years, Monty was an assistant United States attorney for the District of Idaho, where he supervised the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, a group of agents and prosecutors who investigated and prosecuted high-level drug trafficking organizations, which included Los Angeles street gangs, methamphetamine manufacturers, marijuana growers in public lands, and multinational drug cartels. In 2011, after realizing that decades of experience provided him with a unique opportunity to prevent much of the pain inflicted upon children, families, and communities because of substance abuse. Monty left government service in order to devote all of his time to teaching. He is now a frequent keynote speaker and trainer at national, regional, and state conferences relating to drug policy, law enforcement, youth leadership, drug prevention, corporate training, and maintaining safe communities. So let's welcome Monty to the stage.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. What a beautiful day to live in Idaho. I feel sorry. It's great that you're here at this wonderful conference and learning these things and networking with everyone. But I wish you didn't have to look at my face instead of being out there in the Idaho sunshine today. Hopefully, I'll bring you some of those sights as we go along, because that's my purpose, is to talk to you about things that are important, that are outside work. Work is extremely important, and this is a great organization to belong to for all of you who are here. And I'm just honored to have a chance to talk to you for a little while today about some things I think is important. I love the theme, Passport to Possibilities. Passport, obviously, first thing you think of is a document that you use to gain entrance to another country or to get back into your own country. But there's also a lot of other ideas about passport, and that can be a passport to happiness, a passport to a good future, other opportunities, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I had a very unusual experience last week on Halloween. For a variety of reasons, my wife and I found ourselves in southeastern Idaho at a beautiful place called Henry's Lake. Henry's Lake is about 30 minutes away from Yellowstone, one of my favorite places on the planet, which you'll find out the reason why in a minute. My typical routine when I'm going to be close to Yellowstone is to get up far before sunrise and get to Yellowstone National Park and be inside the park and along the Madison River before the sun comes up. And the reason why I do that is I've learned over the years that it's a beautiful place. It's also a place where you'll see a lot of wildlife just as the sun is coming up. So there I was on the Madison River. It was about 15 minutes before the sun came up over the mountain. And in my usual way, I'm driving slowly down towards Madison Junction, then to the geysers and all over the park. And as I'm looking for wildlife up ahead, I see this, what I typically see is there'd be a lot of fishermen along the way, fly fishermen particularly. And so as I'm looking ahead to see if there's any wildlife, I saw this. And what this is I saw 3 fishermen, which is not unusual to see even before the sun comes up. But there was something really weird about these fishermen. One of them, the one on the, I don't know if it's to your right or left, in the front, looked like he had a goose or something on his head. It just didn't fit. He had a very odd shaped head, or he had something on top of his head. The guy in the middle looked like a normal fisherman, but the person on the right had something sticking out of his back. And so even though I'm there mainly to look at wildlife, I slowed down and stopped when I approached the place along the river where these people were. And much to my surprise, the guy who looked like he had a goose on his head was this guy, dressed in a giraffe costume, fishing along Madison River, and he's got a fish on his pole. And you can't zoom in on his face, but I promise you, the face he had was one of complete joy. He was in heaven. Now, why he had a giraffe mask on, I do not know. But for some reason, he decided, he must be a really fun person. He decided that on Halloween, he was going to go fishing and he was going to honor Halloween by having a costume on. I then directed my attention to the fisherman next to him, and this is what I saw. A hammerhead shark fishing in Yellowstone. Obviously a companion of some kind to the giraffe, but this just amused me to no end. That these must be really fun people to do something they love to do, but to provide some amusement for themselves and anyone passing by. Now, why do I tell you this story at the beginning of this talk? That experience brought me amusement and joy to know that there are other people on the planet that are living life to the best, to the highest degree they can live. Happy, have an exciting life, bring joy to others. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Except I'm going to tell you a story about having joy, losing joy, and rediscovering joy. And I hope that the things that I tell you today will help you, if you've lost any bit of joy in your life for whatever reason, will help you to rediscover something that is of infinite worth in our lives. It brings job satisfaction, family satisfaction. It enhances your life, enhances your workplace. So that's what we're going to talk about. Every one of you, including me, started out like this. These helpless little creatures that can't take care of themselves. Most of us were cute. I don't know that I was, but many people were really cute when they're babies. At least their parents believed that. But that's how we start. And as we grow up, we have, it's amazing to watch how children learn to crawl, walk, talk, observe things, be able to manipulate things with their hands. It's all an amazing experience to watch. And it's got to be amazing for them when they learn new skills. Childhood, for the most part, and we wish this for every child on the planet, is that a child's life is full of wonder and awe and joy. And why is that? Because children, to them, everything is new. Nothing's boring as they grow. Every new thing that they see, whether it's a flower, whether it's gravel they try to eat, no matter a puppy, no matter what it is, they have this sense of wonder and awe about this thing. It's exciting to them. And that's a quality of children that would be great if we could maintain that through our entire life. Socrates said that wonder is the beginning of wisdom. And when I think about that, I think about people in the world that don't wonder. And I'm not talking about wonder question. I'm talking about wonder in the sense that it is a sense of wonder about the world around you, the people around you, things that are going on. Joy can be defined as an emotion of great delight or happiness caused by something exceptionally good or satisfying. Another word for it is elation. That's the kind of thing that I experienced many times when I was a child. I saw my kids go through that, and I now watch my grandkids go through that stage where they have a lot of joy in their life. That doesn't mean they don't cry and scream and put up a fuss and hurt themselves and need a kiss on their owie and a Band-Aid from Disneyland Band-Aid, but that for the most part, they have this type of feeling in their life. So how does joy lost to some people? How is it diminished, and what can we do about that? Well, in normal times, we adults tend to lose part of their joy in life because of burdens that they take on. It may be burdens of education, of paying for education. It may be burdens of work. Perhaps they don't feel fulfilled in their work. Maybe they have to work long hours. Maybe they have to deal with people that aren't always pleasant. But work can cause people to kind of be weighed down. Family issues. Most of the time, family is a joyous, wonderful thing. But things like teenagers can come up. Debt, your bills that have to be paid, illness, age of yourself, your parents, your grandparents. Those kind of things come to all of us. And sometimes that weighs on us to where we start to lose some of the joy, wonder, and awe that we felt when we were younger. In today's world, it is even more likely that people can experience a loss of joy, a diminishing of joy that they feel in life. The COVID epidemic has caused many to lose employment, lose income from their business. There's restrictions on activities. You don't have all the social activities and contact. Even the masks that we wear separate us from people that we love. I always think about people that bring sunshine into my life and others' lives because they smile. And now we can't see those smiles. We can't see those things, that brightness of someone. That doesn't mean you can't smile and people can't see it through your eyes, but that human means of communication, a smile, is lost to us in a lot of cases. The fear of sickness or even death weighs a lot of people down. And of course, actual sickness and actual death is something that can bring despair to people, and they may lose hope. And that should not happen. The end result of all that is this feeling of isolation. And isolation from people is a major problem. Isolation from work, isolation from all the normal activities that you love to do. There's also a lot of political upheaval. There's a lot of anger, contention, violence, fear. And all of this contributes to some people becoming depressed and losing hope that the world will someday be normal again, that they can go back to their regular activities. And ultimately, what all of this does is cause uncertainty in our lives. Am I going to have a job? Will I be able to pay my bills? Will my children and spouse and other loved ones and friends be protected from getting a virus that could cause them serious problems? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty with businesses. All of those things have brought an abnormal amount of concern for the future. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this subject today. As Alyssa and I talked about the nature of your conference and who is going to be in attendance, this is more about you, not about your business, not about your agency. It's about you. It's about your families. It's about people you love. It's about neighbors that you care for. It's about our state. It's about our nation. But ultimately, it's about you. And in order to talk about how that affects you, the best way I know how is to talk about how all of that relates to me, because that's what I know the best, is my own life experiences. And my hope is that I can convey those things to you in a way that uplifts you, inspires you, causes you to leave this conference today with hopefully a little brighter outlook on life and what you can do in your occupation, in your personal life, to make others have better and happier lives. So I want you to take a journey with me to a small town in Idaho that's about 30 miles from here, Emmett, Idaho. This is the birthplace of civilization, as some in Emmett, Idaho consider it to be. It was a great place to grow up. Well, first of all, it was in Idaho, and next it was in Emmett. And Emmett was an awesome place. These are my parents. This homely little child right here is me. And my parents hate me to show this picture because it was a long time ago, but they look really young and they look really happy, even though they were holding a rather homely child. But I had a great life in Emmett, growing up in Emmett. Some people thought it was a small town filled with orchards and farms and ranches, and it was boring. I never saw it that way because I was surrounded by family and friends and all kinds of things to do. This picture shows me, my mom, her best friend, Margaret, and my best friend, Steve. 2 friends had children 2 weeks apart. I'm on the left side, Steve's on the other. From being 2 weeks apart, we are still best friends all of these years later. We've kept in contact. I think that's a very unusual situation to have friends have babies who are friends for their lifetime. But that's the part of my life. This picture kind of explains the way I am today. It has something to do with my psyche. But I had a normal childhood. I was surrounded by friends, family. My grandparents, one set of grandparents lived next door to us. My other set of grandparents lived across the alfalfa field. Well, many of them lived to be close to 100 or even over 100. So I had lots of family around as I was growing up. And I had lots of fun. Had puppies, built forts in the backyard. I had birthday parties. I didn't get any cuter as I grew up. My sisters, my friends at a birthday party. And it got worse when I'm a teenager. I'm the guy in the middle there with the glasses and the hair and all of that. I had hair back then. But I show you this picture for a couple of reasons. One is that smile on my face was literally how I felt most of the time. The other reason I show you that picture is those 2 young men standing on both sides of me were my friends. I attribute much of my success in life to the way I was raised, but also the kind of friends that I had. Because my friends, for the most part, wanted me to make good choices. And they helped me make good choices. Not only through their example, but things they encouraged me to do. And that's a blessing that some people don't have. And I think that's part of what we're going to talk about in a little bit. Eventually went off to college. I lived in Korea for 2 years, came back, finished college, went to law school. 1982, I graduated from law school, and everything changed. Because up to that point in my life, even though I had seen a lot of things, I'd been a lot of places, and moved back to Boise because I wanted to raise our family near all of my relatives and friends. I wanted to live here. I wanted to raise a family here in Idaho. But my first job was as an Ada County deputy prosecutor. And most of you know that a prosecutor's job is to prosecute people who have made very bad choices. Now, they may be not so serious choices like they decide to jaywalk, to more serious shoplifting, other kinds of theft. Drunk driving gets more and more serious, robberies, everything to rapes, horrible child abuse, and even murder. And as a prosecutor with Ada County, I was exposed to all those things, starting with little cases and eventually having murder cases. And in a short time, I had been exposed to things that I had never seen. I may have known about those things from the news, but they weren't really real to me. And now all of a sudden, these things were presented to me. I had to absorb the facts into my brain. I had to be able to explain it to other people. I had to know the worst things about people. I had to see some of the worst things in society, from dealing with a child that's been abused, that was so frightened of men that when I interviewed this young child, she couldn't look at me and was very, very nervous because she was afraid of all men because of things that had happened to her. I'd be on homicide. I'd go to homicide scenes and I would see the bodies. I was at autopsies. I dealt with criminals, very serious criminals, some of them who were not very happy about what I was doing in their case. But over that time, as I was a deputy prosecutor, and 5 years later, I was hired as assistant United States attorney with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's basically a federal prosecutor. I was put in charge of the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, which is just a fancy name for a group of agents, prosecutors, analysts, people who investigated large-scale drug trafficking organizations, and then prosecuted them. And my job was to help in the investigations, figure out, and we'd literally sit down at a conference table and figure out who's the biggest, baddest, meanest, nastiest, most serious drug trafficking people in the area, and then we would investigate them. Sometimes that would take months, sometimes it took years. The end result was we were immersed in a lifestyle, an industry, not really criminal organizations that were some of the worst that you can imagine. And as a result of that, in my career, I became an eyewitness to some of the worst things that happen in the world. I was an eyewitness to many bad choices. And when I talk to people about these things, I always want to emphasize that these things, these bad things that happen, are the result of choices that people make. They may drink too much and not have any intention to hurt someone, but the choice they made to drink and then get in a car affects themselves and other people, and sometimes a lot of other people. And so, as an eyewitness to many bad choices, I became very, very cognizant of the fact that many of the choices that adults make have a disproportionate effect on children. And we don't have time, and I don't want to burden you with those things that I know. But I know that adult choices impact children in terrible, terrible ways, as well as wonderful ways. Little kids that I dealt with, that I witnessed, that I came into contact with, were children that were often under the care of parents or other caregivers who are under the influence of drugs, both legal and illegal. These children were often exposed to meth labs, terrible chemicals, drugs themselves, syringes, paraphernalia, firearms, abuse and neglect of all kinds, emotional, physical, spiritual, and even death. And I could tell you stories about children that suffered from all of those things and sometimes even perished because of their contact with adults who made choices about what to put in their bodies and brains that made them unwilling and unable to make good choices for the welfare of children. I'll give you a couple of examples. We did a search warrant one time in Canyon County, little tiny house out in the country. In this house lived a man and his wife and 7 children. The youngest child still slept in a crib. When we did the search warrant on this house, this is what we found. Found firearms, 7 pounds of methamphetamine. Now, if you know anything about methamphetamine, you know that a single gram of methamphetamine is worth $80 to $100. A gram of powder methamphetamine is like the equivalent of what you'd find in a Sweet and Low package if you opened it up and poured it into your hand. If that was meth, that would cost you $80 to $100. Now you think about that and think about how much 7 pounds of methamphetamine is worth. It isn't hard to understand how the children living in this house were in danger every single minute of their lives, not only because of their parents, but because of other drug dealers, drug users that might come to their house in order to get this methamphetamine worth all kinds of money. That's why the guns were there, to protect people, but also to protect the methamphetamine. Now, this is shocking in and of itself, but worse is when the agents went into the child's room with living in the crib. This is what they found. This is exactly how they found it. A gun and a clip, both empty, in the baby's crib. And when the agents asked the mother why there was a gun in the baby's crib, she shrugged and goes, it doesn't matter, it's not loaded. Now think about that for a second. How does that impact those 7 children living in that home? They are all in personal danger. They have parents that obviously lack any good sense of judgment, protection of their own children. But those values that they learn in their own home aren't just going to be for themselves. Those are things they're going to carry with them into society, into the schools where your children and grandchildren will be. They will carry that into adulthood, all of those things that happen. And so choices that adults make are extremely important, that they make the right choices. I dealt with a lot of marijuana grows on public lands. It might be difficult to see in the picture, but there's green and then there's dark green spots in different places. Those dark green spots represent marijuana grows. And if I look out the window up into the foothills, I can almost see the place where these were, and causing great havoc to people that like to hunt or fish or hike. And they go out and stumble upon one of these marijuana grows. And guess what? The people who are tending these grows are people in camouflage and packing serious weapons. And so those are the kind of things that happen when people make bad choices. We did a search warrant on a little house in Worley, Idaho. In that house, when my agents went through the front door, they found 27 guns in that one-bedroom house. They weren't all laying on the floor. They were hanging from nails in the wall, virtually in every part of the house, the bathroom, the bedroom, all over the living room. They were all cocked, locked, ready to go, so that at a moment's notice, they would be available to protect a few scrawny marijuana plants growing in a closet. Interestingly, the person that had all those guns didn't have weapons in order to protect himself from the police, because in this part of Idaho, there is literally hardly any law enforcement. Those guns were there to protect his pot from other people who sold pot and used pot. That's what he thought was important. Methamphetamine, huge crystals sold by a young woman, 23 years of age, that led a group of methamphetamine traffickers in the Treasure Valley. 23 years of age, I listened to her on a tape recording, and when she talked about going to her father's home, where he was living with a young lady, and the young lady had a baby, but that was not her father's baby. And this aggravated the person that I'm talking about. And later she was on the phone talking to her friend about how she had hurt this baby because she didn't like it living with her father, and she didn't like the mother. She tried to hurt this baby and was mad because the baby didn't die. Now, can you imagine any human being, let alone a 23-year-old young woman, talking like that, thinking like that? Do you think that someone who thought like that would care about what happens to any of her customers, the people she's selling this poison to? Absolutely not. Just not the case. So those are the kind of things that happen. This guy is his name, Hell's Angel motorcycle gang member from Oakland, California, who came to Idaho not to fish, hunt, go skiing, any of that. He came here because he heard there were stupid people in Idaho that like to put methamphetamine up their nose or use other kinds of drugs. He came to Idaho for the purpose of selling drugs. Now, we don't want anybody like him, to come here. And he wouldn't have come here, but for the knowledge that there are people who want these things, and they're willing to pay a lot of money for them. On his back, you can see up here, this used to say Hell's Angels, the chapter, this MC for Motorcycle Club. This used to be a winged skull. And I'll show you what it kind of looks like. It looks something like this: a skull and wings. That's a typical biker tattoo. But you'll notice on this individual that all of these letters have been blocked out and a big X across it. And what happened during the investigation is we found out that this particular person, as a member of the Hells Angels, had been kicked out of the Hells Angels. Now, that's a very bad thing for your resume if you're a member of the Hells Angels, but they don't like you and they want to get rid of you. And when When they got rid of him, they didn't just kick him out of the club, tell him to go away. They held this big man down and they tattooed over every letter, tattooed a big X across his back. And where that skull face used to be, they took a hot iron and held it on there until the skin and the tattoo was gone. Now, is this the kind of person that we want to attract to Idaho? He came here because people want to use drugs. That's a choice that people in Idaho made. He made a choice too, but it's not just the drug dealers we need to be thinking about. 19-year-old young man went to a party with his friends, 4 of them in his car. They got high up in the foothills. On the way back, he went 100 miles an hour off the freeway near the airport, hit a cement wall, and this is the result, killing 2 of his friends. He was 19 years of age. One last quick story. This beautiful young lady's name is Heidi. Heidi was a friend of my wife and I and many other people. We knew her. They lived in our neighborhood. We knew her parents. We knew her. I was a scoutmaster when her younger brothers grew up. We knew the family well. We saw them at school, soccer games, church, everywhere. We were in their home. They were in our home. My wife loved Heidi as she was growing up. She was a wonderful, talented, sweet, awesome young lady. You can just see in her eyes, in the smile, that she was what I just described. Heidi, when she was in high school, I think it was in her senior year, although she had been taught differently, and although her values were such that she had never participated in any kind of activity like this, in her senior year, she was convinced by friends, so-called friends, to try marijuana for the first time. And for some reason, she decided to do that. And like a lot of other people, when she tried that, it made her feel good. It made her friends happy. Nothing bad happened. And so after this one experience, Heidi did that more and more, and her circle of friends changed. Her interest in what she had been interested in before diminished. At one point, she was introduced to powders. First, it was cocaine. She really liked that. And then a powder called methamphetamine. She loved that. And over the next 6 or 7 years, this beautiful young lady was in and out of jail. Constant use of drugs, methamphetamine mostly. She was pregnant. A little girl was born to her who was addicted to methamphetamine at birth. Even after losing her child because a judge took the child away from her, she continued to use methamphetamine. And in her mid-20s, she died. She had a massive stroke. Her internal organs started to shut down. She was in a coma for 2 weeks. When she had the stroke, she was paralyzed everywhere, but she could still move her eyes. The doctors told her good parents, our friends, that there was nothing they could do for her. So they said, you have the option of leaving her here to die or taking her home. And they wanted her home. And they took Heidi and they put her in a hospital bed in their living room. And I remember many times over the next 2 weeks, Sandy and I would go over and find her mother holding her hand and talking to her and asking her, even though Heidi couldn't respond, asking her, why, Heidi, why did you do this to yourself? Why did you do this? And we would hold her hand and say, Heidi, we love you. We're so sorry this happened. Sometimes Heidi would stare blankly. Sometimes she would look around. Sometimes she looked frightened. Sometimes tears came down her eyes, but we didn't know what she could hear, what she could understand. But we know 2 weeks later, she passed away. And I was asked to speak at her funeral. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. partly because the loss of this beautiful young lady, part of it was the grief of family and many, many other people who loved her. Part of it was because I knew about these things. I should have been able to help her, but I was not. No one was able to. After the funeral, my friends, her parents, came up to me and gave me 2 pictures. This is one of them. They gave me these pictures, the first one and this one, and they said, Monty, we know you and Sandy loved Heidi, and she loved you. And we believe that she would want you to share her story with other people. And they asked me if I would do that. And I said yes. And since that time, I have, and I am today. The person you see in this picture, these pictures are the same person. The one picture, notice the difference in her eyes. Instead of that sparkle, that they're dead. That drug destroyed her mind, her internal organs, her spirit. It destroyed her and ultimately took her life. That's the same person, and that is not the worst that Heidi ever looked. But that's the picture that I was given. Choices that people made, not just Heidi's, her friends, people around her, encouraged her, gave her things that changed the course of her life, that caused the little girl to be born addicted to methamphetamine. One more story, and then I'm going to switch gears and talk about some happy things. Years ago, my wife and I went to New Orleans because I gave a talk there. After the talk, we were there for the rest of the day and wanted to see the sights of New Orleans. So we, in the middle of a beautiful afternoon, walked through all of the tourist spots. This is one place that has a beautiful cathedral in a park that during the day is filled with music and flowers and artists and people enjoying themselves in the outdoors. That night, we wanted to go down to the French Quarter, Bourbon Street, and have a nice dinner. We did. We found one, had a nice dinner, and then continued to walk down Bourbon Street to see what all the fuss was about during Mardi Gras and why all these people come there to be tourists. And as we walked, this is basically what you see. I don't know how far it goes, but it's basically bar, restaurant, bar, restaurant. And as we walked down this street, it was very, very loud, lots of neon lights, not the kind of thing that I really like. And people that were pretty inebriated stumbling down the street, but talking loudly, seemingly having a good time. But like many places in the world, if you're in a place like this, you inevitably come onto people like this who are needing help. And whether they have legitimate reasons to beg for money or not, that's where they are. They're on a street corner, they're on a sidewalk, and they're pleading for help with many, many people passing them by. This poor man was laying on the sidewalk, passed out. He was clutching a dollar bill in his hand, surrounded by garbage, and I watched tourists step over him, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. Very, very sad, and no one was helping him. There was too many people like him for anybody to even pay attention. So as we go along, Sandy and I are feeling like, well, this is not fun. We don't want to be here. But we got to the end of the street and found ourselves in this same beautiful park that during the day was filled with light and music and artists and all kinds of wonderful things. But when we got there at 10 o'clock at night, there wasn't any of that. It was dark. You could see people huddled together, passing around pipes or bottles, and it was dark. There was no music. There was no light. It was a scary place. And so as Sandy and I got to this spot and we saw what it looked like now, we immediately started to turn away and almost stepped on this guy. And it was kind of startling because there he was in the dark, and we just kind of like, oh, wow, what's the deal? And I looked at him, and I thought maybe he was about 30, 35 years of age. And immediately these questions came into my brain. Who is this person? Is he alive or dead? I couldn't tell. I watched to see if he's breathing. I could not tell. And other questions, who is he? How did he get here? Where was he born? What kind of family did he have? Where are his family members? What kind of choices did he make growing up that caused him to be here on the sidewalk just a few feet away from some beautiful soft grass? What caused him to be there at that very minute, laying on a sidewalk, dead or alive? What kind of choices did he make? Perhaps what choices did other people make that caused him to go down this road? I didn't know the answer to any of those questions, but what I did know was that that person, if you could go back in time and help him in some way to keep his life from careening off the track, how priceless would that be to him? How valuable would that help be to the people who loved him, who cared for him? It's too late to go back in time, but those are choices we can make today with other people. Now, despite that, seeing that at that time, Sandy and I, we go back to the hotel, and thankfully the next morning we're on a plane and we're headed to Eastern Tennessee. And 16 hours after seeing that guy's face in New Orleans, I was traveling along the banks of a lake in Eastern Tennessee and looking at these faces. I was looking at this face, and I was looking at this face, and I was with my little adventure buddies on the trail around the lake. That's where they love to hike. And I was looking at these faces, and as we walked along this beautiful lake with these beautiful little children, all I could do is look up in the sky and say, thank you, God, for these little ones. Thank you that they have a home where their parents love them and make good choices and teach them and care for them and protect them. That was my thought at that time. 30 years of law enforcement put me in a situation where I had a lot of things in my brain that had happened. And in 2011, I decided, even though I was too young to retire, I felt like I needed to do something else in my life. So I made a career change. So I left my job, wasn't ready, didn't have a retirement yet, and started to do drug education with kids, adults, and I get to go around and give these talks. And I love this quote by Mark Twain. He said, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. If you've had a good life, you've discovered a reason why you're here on this planet. You've found out why you're here, and you will be happier to the extent that you live consistently with why you were here. Some people, and I believe I'm one of them, have more than one day, and when I found out why, it's not always the same. It changes over time, and I hope that happens with you, different parts of your life. So having experienced all these things in law enforcement, many years later, life is much different. Instead of little kids, this is just part of the family. Being a grandpa is like the best job on the planet. It can't be better than that. And so our lives are filled with these little creatures that are growing up that bring us joy. But at the same time, it causes concern for the world they're living in, for the choices they make, for the choices made by other people around them in society, in their community, in their neighborhood, in their families. And knowing what I know simply increases my feeling that we need to talk more about making good choices. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is how we can do that. there's a point in my career where the kids had all grown up and gone to college or got married, and we found ourselves at home alone with no kids. We no scout meetings, no soccer games, none of the regular stuff. We'd go to work, come home, go to work, come home. And because of the job I had, most of work had to do with a lot of things, people making bad choices. And I woke up one day suddenly realizing that I was waking up feeling like the world was an awful place, that it was a dark and scary place with lots of people doing bad things. And this scared me because I'm not naturally that way. I'm naturally happy, cheerful, optimistic person. So when this occurred to me, it scared me, and I realized I needed to do something different in order to change my outlook on life. And I realized that that joy that I felt as a little child had left me because of the things in my brain, the things that kind of wore me down and walked around the world like this, looking down. And I wanted to rediscover what I felt like as a child and also what I witnessed in my grandchildren. And so I decided to get a hobby, and there's lots of them. But the thing I decided to do is get a cheap film camera, start taking pictures. And that changed me, because instead of walking around with all these thoughts in my mind about what is bad about the world, having a camera in my hand and looking through the lens of a camera caused me to look for, discover, and then try to capture what? Everything that's beautiful, everything that's unique, everything that's awesome about life. And it changed my perspective from going from like this to like, wow, what have I been missing? And I'll illustrate this one way. I was giving a talk at IPPA, Idaho, K through 3, then middle school, then high school. All day long, I was dealing with this. These kids are coming in for a talk, and I'm doing this all day long. Now, they got quiet when I was done, but it was an exhausting day. He was talking all day long. And when I came out of there that day, there was a giant blizzard in Payette. And I needed to be home by a particular time. And I had to get there pretty quick. But the blizzard was so intense, I couldn't even see where the road ended on the sides. I was driving like this, and I needed to go quick. I was driving like this, and my hands clenched the steering wheel. And I was just frustrated, and my whole body hurt. And then I thought of something that I've often told other people. And that is, change your perspective. So instead of gripping the wheel and staring intently out, I slowed down and started to notice the things around me. And this is what I started to see. Not very well, but deer in the alongside of the road, a group of horses. I saw this happening. It was the same road that I'd been on, and I was clenching the wheel, but now I saw this wonderland of snow and shapes. I started noticing what was around me. It was like Narnia all of a sudden. It went from this intense stress to this sense of wonder and awe. Look at everything around me that I had been missing. And so now when I have my camera in hand, I look for small things. It doesn't have to be a great sunset. Small thing, the inside of a flower, tiny, tiny bubbles next to black rocks on the surf in Maine on a cloudy, windy day. These bubbles all reflected me. I didn't realize at the time. They were like tiny mirrors that reflected me as I was taking pictures of them. I love wildlife photography. This isn't a very good thing to look at during lunch, but it's an amazing creature. It can create something like this that man doesn't know how to do. Beautiful things. I saw a little girl holding a flower a butterfly was drinking out of in a park in Portland. It was a miraculous thing. A little frog on a giant lily pad in San Diego. A hummingbird in Tucson, Arizona. A hummingbird in our garden where we grow sunflowers every summer attracts the birds. A little kitten in her neighborhood, a little girl and her kitten. It was just a magical thing. This is some dog dressed up at Balboa Park. I'm sure he didn't do that himself, but it was a fascinating thing. A red-tailed hawk baby at the top of this giant tree that had to climb to the top on a rainy day with thorns on the tree and climb to the top to where I could look at this creature who was staring at me eyeball to eyeball. That expression was probably the same one I had on my face, was, wow, I've never seen one of those, but it was magical. Sandhill cranes that are really tall and they're babies. And the dad wandered into a place where there was a blackbird nest as the mom and the babies went the opposite direction. And for 10 minutes, I watched these little blackbirds torment this sandhill crane. And why? To protect the babies. That was what they were doing. It was an amazing thing. Little fox in the foothills, little foxes fighting over by Fairfield, Idaho, a big fox laying on a frozen lake in Cascade. All of these things, Mustangs, wild Mustangs in the Owyhee Desert, shot from a helicopter. These little creatures were here in Boise. My son and I love to hunt cougars in the winter, to take pictures of. And we go through the snow and we catch them and get to take pictures. And they're amazing creatures. And they're usually not happy to see us, as reflected in this picture. But they're amazing creatures. This is a baby one. This baby one, Tracy, Alyssa's looking at me. I'm about to run out of time. This is a baby one at the top of a juniper tree in the Owyhee Desert on New Year's Eve a few years ago. This was like my best day on the planet. And this one is its sibling that's on the other side of the tree staring at me through the leaves. A moose in the Tetons, a baby moose in Yellowstone, a grizzly bear in Yellowstone. A day before the sun came up when I watched a mama grizzly and her two cubs follow her through the geysers. A mountain goat in Hell's Canyon who was not enamored with me. It stuck out its tongue. It did not want me up there. The world is full of amazing people, including all of you, the people in this room. My friend Al and his first grandchild, my nieces in wildflowers in Henry's Lake, my granddaughter Mia taking her first steps, the first time she saw a peacock, the first time she held a starfish, dancing in the sunset for Grandma and Grandpa as a beautiful sunset was there. This is my grandfather, who is my next door neighbor and my friend my whole life growing up. He was an amazing person like my parents. This is Grandpa at 99 years old on Father's Day, driving around on his four-wheeler. This is a picture that was on my grandpa's funeral program. And I was also asked to speak there. But unlike Heidi's funeral, speaking on this day for this man was not a sad day. It was a celebration of a life, 101 years of a life of family, love, laughter, faith, service, kindness. The world's full of opportunities and ventures. We get to do all kinds of things. My best Father's Day present ever was that my wife got me so I could jump out of a plane. I don't know if she increased her insurance on me the day before or not, but it was awesome. This is last Saturday. This is an aerial view from my drone of my uncle and I rafting down the river near Island Park. The world's full of places you can go and see. Paris at sunset, a Mayan temple in Mexico, a beautiful world that we live in, an endless supply of things to see, people to meet, creatures to observe, opportunities, adventures, scenes of this beautiful, beautiful world that we live in. Now, this picture is a picture of the Grand Prismatic Springs in Yellowstone, shot from a helicopter. I don't know if you can see, but this line here is a sidewalk, and these are people. And that's what you can see from the air. People on the sidewalk don't see that, but that thing is on our planet, sunsetting at the top of the White Cloud Mountains. And this is what we're all sitting on, standing on. I didn't take this picture. I wish I had, and I hope someday too, but that's where we live. And all of the things I've been talking about, all of the wonderful things, people, places, creatures, opportunities, and ventures are on that blue and green, white, beautiful planet. And further out into space, there are more amazing things. This is the eclipse of the sun I got to take a picture of. This is Jupiter. This is Pluto. You go way out there, there are things like this, unbelievable things. And I'm going to show you the best, coolest picture that I know of, and then I'll be done. Years ago, the NASA scientists took the Hubble telescope and pointed it out to the deepest, darkest, blackest, most empty part of the known universe and started taking pictures. When they got the pictures started coming back, they were amazed, because in the deepest, darkest, blackest, most empty part of the universe, this is what they found. Thousands of lights. Except for a few, those lights do not represent stars. They are galaxies. Galaxies that each one of them have 500 billion to 2 trillion suns in every little one point of light. That's the universe we live in. That's the world we live in. That's those people, those things, an infinite variety of things to enjoy and to love. One of the saddest things I know is in drug culture, they take all of that and their world collapses until their world is this thing that they're going to put in their body. And it robs them of all of these other things. What I know about life now, what I have rediscovered, is that the joy in the world comes from not focusing on problems, doing things that are bad for you and others. It's to look out and to observe and to enjoy and find awe and find wonder in the world and to rediscover joy. So my hope for all of you today is that no matter where you're at in your life, that you start to realize, to notice these things, that you rediscover your sense of wonder and awe, that in a sense you become as those little children. That's really time up, is when this goes up, and rediscover joy. Thank you again for allowing me to have this time with you. I hope it's been helpful. God bless all of you, and best of luck to you in the rest of your conference. Thank you very much, Melissa.
All right. Thank you so much, Monty, for your presentation, and everybody else for coming today. This concludes our lunchtime session. We hope you all enjoyed it. From here, please join in on sessions from the City of Boise, Idaho Department of Lands, State of Idaho, Division of Purchasing, and Boise State. And lastly, tomorrow we'll conclude our event with a fun coffee with IPPA session where we will wrap up the festivities. We hope you've enjoyed the show so far, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the next sessions and next year, hopefully in person. A survey will be coming your way after the event, so please give us feedback on this year's show, and thank you again.